नौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पूर्णमतः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। So the topic for the camp for this class will be Dakshinamurti Stotra. I hope you have, all of you have this copies with you. Dakshinamurti Stotram. It is a stotra. Stotra means a hymn whose theme or whose subject is Dakshinamurti. Hymn, as you know, is a stuti, where you praise or eulogize the devata. And stuti means stutir nama. Am I audible everywhere? This side. Stutir nama guna kathanam, which means that stuti or hymn is that by which or wherein you praise or eulogize the devata concerned. Here the devata is Dakshinamurti. And generally in stuti, when we eulogize or praise the devata, it is not that the devata needs it. It's not that the deity needs to be praised. But by that, the real benefit is to the one who does the stuti. Because when you ponder over or ruminate over the glories of the devata, the gunas of the devata, then naturally, obviously your mind is replete with that. Your mind becomes Bhagavad Akara. The mind is naturally replete with what content or the food you provide. And when you are ruminating upon the gunas, the glories, the greatness of the devata, your mind is filled up by that. And when the mind is filled up by that, naturally, the qualities being very pure and elevating, your mind too becomes of that quality. This is the real purpose behind upasana. And the benefit is reaped by us, the one who does the upasana. This Dakshinamurti Stotra is not a stuti in that conventional sense. Here, Shankaracharya-ji, who has written this stotra, is not praising Dakshinamurti in that sense. We will be seeing that, but here the salutation is offered to Dakshinamurti, the teacher, in different forms. Bhashyakara will show that Dakshinamurti is everything. He is the teacher, as well as the student, as well as the creator, as well as the deluded jiva, as well as the one who goes to sleep, and then when he wakes up, he remembers that I who had gone to sleep is the one who has now woken up, which means the continuity of the self is shown. In this manner, we will be seeing that in each of the verses, different forms of Dakshinamurtis are saluted too. So it is a stuti more of the Nirguna style. And here the entire Vedanta, the quintessence of Vedanta, is presented in the guise of offering salutation to Dakshinamurtiji. As I said, this is attributed to Sri Shankaracharya-ji. It consists of 10 verses. Actually, you know, the first 8 verses talks about different unfolding Dakshinamurtiji, and the last 2 verses are in the form of upasana. And particularly in the last verse, the phalam of this is given. That is why it is also known as the Stotra, Prakrana, not Prakrana, but Stotra made of 8 verses. So that is how also it is described. But in short, here the theme is Dakshinamurtiji. And it is important to know that it is written by Sri Shankaracharya-ji, who came, you know, if we care to know a little about the author, he came at a time when our Vedic culture was on the brink of disintegration. The attacks and assaults on Vedic culture was happening from all sides. At such a time, when the sadhakas, when the pure-hearted people, when they praised and a cry came out from their hearts to save the Vedic culture, and they prayed to Lord Shiva. So see, we will be seeing that Dakshinamurtiji is also manifestation of Lord Shiva. And even Shankaracharya-ji is manifestation, incarnation of Lord Shiva. But there is difference between 2. Inasmuch as I said, Shankaracharya-ji came at a time, the need of the hour was to revive the Vedic culture. And here Shankaracharya-ji comes, and in merely 32 years, he revives the entire culture, travels the length and breadth of India, Bharata, and propagates the message of Vedanta, because the Vedas were misinterpreted. There were many, vested interests who misinterpreted Vedas, and they harped upon this Vedic culture. At such a time, the need of the hour was to save this and again revive and establish the Vedic culture. And that was his explicit purpose of coming. He did that. Along with that, he has written bhashyas upon the Prasthanatrayi, which Prasthanatrayi means the foundation, threefold foundation of Vedanta. That is Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and Brahma Sutra. Not only did he write bhashyas, the commentaries on these 3, but also composed many Prakarana Granthas, plus many other treatises, stotras, etc. So he has done Herculean task to revive and establish the Vedic culture. Whereas Dakshinamurtiji is also incarnation of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva only incarnated as the Dakshinamurtiji, the very first teacher. See, always there is a question as to who is the first guru. The question which puzzles most of us is that, who is the first teacher? Okay, I have my teacher, but who is my teacher's teacher? So, very brilliantly, in our tradition, the first teacher is traced to Bhagavan. Bhagavan is the first teacher. So no more questions remain. Otherwise, if the teacher is a human being, then his teacher would also be human being, and many other questions would arise. That is why in our tradition we find that the first teacher, the first guru is always Bhagavan. Now, how did this Dakshina, what was the reason for him to incarnate? As I said, they always reply or respond to the needs of the time. There is a story regarding Dakshinamurti's incarnation. It is said in Puranas that once upon a time, not once upon a time, but Brahmaji had 4 progenitors: Sanak, Sanandana, Sanat Kumara, and Sanatana. These are the 4 Manasaputra, sons born from the mind, from Sankalpa. These are the 4 progenitors of Brahmaji. And when after they are born, as usual, Brahmaji asks them to join in his task of creating and maintaining the creation. But these 4 children were right from the beginning had developed Vairagya. They wanted to know the truth, were keen upon knowing what is the truth. So they politely refused to join Brahmaji in his task. And Brahmaji was adamant, if not my way, then you may leave the house, then you may leave the home. So these 4 children leaves the home in quest of truth. They wanted to know that. When they are going, they came across Naradji. Whenever you come across Naradji, many other things happen, but ultimately it is for the good. Not only good of that particular person, but for the posterity also, for people at large also. So Narad, they come across Naradji. Naradji asked them to go to different devatas and ask for this knowledge. They first approached Brahmaji. And when they approaching Brahmaji and they saw that Brahmaji is sitting with Saraswatiji, she is playing veena, they didn't like this. They are already full of Vairagya. They have that mind, bent of mind is of renunciation. So they didn't approve of this and they left. Then they approached Vishnu, the Vishnu Devata. And again, here the same story is repeated. Bhagavan Vishnu is sitting with Lakshmi ji. In fact, Lakshmi Devi is at the feet of Vishnu and serving him. This also, these children did not like. They didn't approve of this, so they left. Now they are going to Lord Shiva. Here the problem is altogether different. They didn't like it at all because Devi is right on the other side of Lord Shiva. He is Ardhanarishwar. So they didn't like this at all. So they left, and now, since they don't see any other path, they started, they are sitting for meditation, giving themselves for penance, and pining for the help of Ishvara. And then after some time, Lord Shiva himself came in the form of, manifested in the form of Dakshinamurti. Seated under the banyan tree, with his left leg on the right thigh, in the posture of Virasana, and he taught them the truth of Vedanta, taught them Vedanta, but in a very, very peculiar way. Never heard of this kind of teaching. It is Mauna Vyakya. In the silent exposition, the teacher is, no words are exchanged. He is just sitting there, nothing but epitome of tranquility and purity, with his eyes closed, but just with Chin Mudra. Just with Chin Mudra, the exposition, the teaching is made with this, Yoga Mudra or Chin Mudra as it is called, where the thumb, where the forefinger bends down and touches the thumb, making the circle full. This finger separates itself from the other 3. This symbolizes that this is Jiva, so far associated with samsara. Samsara is made of Maya, which is in the form of the 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and tamas. So the jiva now dissociates himself with these three, even with sattva, dissociates himself and joins with this thumb which stands for Brahman, the truth, forming a full circle. So this is something very great about our culture, that there are different mudras signifying very profound truths. And this is how he, in this silent exposition, just by this mudra, gave them the teaching. And they were so pure, Uttamadikaris, they are best. No other preparation is required. So just by this Mauna Vyakya, the message goes home. So teacher is also of that stature. Students, disciples are also of that type. So this Mauna Vyakya can work. That was the time, Satyuga even, and that is why it worked very well. See, silence doesn't mean, yes, he did not speak, but this is that kind of silence which is both the substratum of even sound and peace. This Vyakya, this Mauna is of silence, is of that type, which is the substratum, which forms the basis of both the Dhvani, the sound, as well as Shanti. This is not just keeping quiet, but the truth itself is being conveyed in this manner. And when your mind is free from all kinds of distractions, likes and dislikes, and totally attuned, then you are all ready to receive this knowledge. Just by being in the presence of one who is the picture of this truth, you receive this knowledge, provided that kind of preparation is there. It may not work with us today. It did not even Shankaracharya, as I said, both are the incarnations of Lord Shiva. But their methods of teaching are different. Because even in the time of Sri Shankaracharya ji also, the need of the hour is different. Now he has to become vociferous. He has to become, he has to keep on talking, repeating, harping the message home. That is what is required. So even Shankaracharya ji became Vachara. There is a very famous thing which says that Maunam Muktva Shambhoho Murti Charati Bhuvane Shankaracharya Rupa. Maunam Muktva, giving up the Maunam, which he did as Dakshinamurti ji. He gave up that. And Shambhoho Murti, the very form of Lord Shiva, moves about in the world in the form of Shankaracharya ji. So the author who writes about this is himself. He is writing about himself only in a different form. But in these 10 verses, as I said, the entire Vedanta is given. Entire Vedanta comes, in fact, right in the first 3 verses. The very first 3 verses gives us the knowledge of Tattvam Asi, the main teaching of Vedanta. We will be seeing this. The first verse talks about Tvampada. The second verse talks about Tatpada. Third verse talks about the unity, the Asipada, which shows the identity, which shows that it is a fact, existent fact, here and now, which you just have to understand. No becoming, no reaching, no transforming, nothing. As you are, just understand that you are already complete, you are already full. In the very first 3 verses, this principle of Vedanta is given. So, this is a very, very important stotra, plus also very popular. It is a very popular stotra among all the traditionalists. Dakshinamurti ji, this stotra is very, very famous. Maybe not in north, but in south very much. So this is what Dakshinamurti stotra is. Before we get into the stotra, we'll be seeing something about Dakshinamurti ji, because I'm sure most of you know about him, but there may be many who may not be familiar with who this Dakshinamurti ji is and what he stands for. So as I said, Dakshinamurti ji, most of his features resemble Lord Shiva. But there are many things even different in the form of Dakshinamurti ji. Let us see that. Just first of all, he is called Dakshinamurti. Dakshinamurti means what? Dakshinamurti means one who is, it is a karmadharaya samasa, which means Dakshinascha asau amurtischa, who is Dakshina. Dakshina means who is competent, who is skillful, plus he is also what? Amurti. Amurti means formless. He is everything. He is skillful as a creator, as a teacher, competent in every way, yet he is attributeless, yet without any form, without any gunas, everything immanent reality. He is immanent reality as well as he is the transcendental reality. He stands for both. So this is what the word conveys. Plus see, Dakshinamurti, Dakshina stands for south. He faces south. The way he sits under the banyan tree, he faces south. Naturally, the students are facing him. So students are facing north. In our tradition, north, the direction north stands for purity, knowledge, elevation, many other things. North means uttara. Uttara, north means uttara, which means to rise and cross over. Uttara, you first rise and cross over. So this is what uttara means, which also symbolizes rising above our base tendencies, rising above this samsara, rising above the three gunas, which stand for samsara, which stands for maya, and going beyond. So that is why after taking sannyasa, the sannyasi, immediately after taking the diksha, they proceed towards north. Because in the north are the Himalayas, north is the residence of Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva is nothing but knowledge, vairagya, purity. So the student, the one who takes diksha, proceeds towards north. Then of course, if the teacher wants him, he calls him back to carry out this task of teaching, etc. But that is what north stands for. So Dakshinamurti sits on that side and he faces south and students face north. And south is the direction of karma kanda. South even stands for purity, shuddhi of karma. Shuddhi of karma is mainly to be seen in south. All our great acharyas, well versed with all this, they come from south. Then they come to north. So south is the direction for that. And south also is the disha, is the direction of Yamaraja. It stands for mrityu, it stands for death. So the teacher has crossed over this. Teacher is beyond birth and death. He abides in the truth. He has nothing to do with now birth and death. So students have to look up to him and learn this art of going beyond this birth and death. All this is signified by Dakshinamurti ji facing southern direction and students facing north. This is Dakshina, and plus he is Amurti. In reality, he is beyond all forms, beyond all attributes. That is, he is there in all the forms, and simultaneously he is beyond all the forms. When we discuss about the stotra, each and every verse, that time we will see that Dakshinamurti is everything. He is everything. As I just said, he is the teacher, he is the student himself, he is deluded Jiva also, he is creator also, he is that common denominator which is found in the entire creation. All this Dakshinamurti ji stands for, and yet he is beyond all this. This samsara, this gunas cannot be without him, and yet he is asangaha. They cannot be without him, but he is without them. Inasmuch as Swamiji says, they are in me, I am not in them. Just as the actor can say, actor who is playing the role of beggar can say that beggar is in me, but I am not the beggar. This is how Dakshinamurti ji is everything. And yet, they are all because of him, but he is in reality beyond all that. He stands 10 inches above, sort of. So, this is what Dakshinamurti ji stands for. Plus, he is young. Dakshinamurti is young. And all the students, all his disciples are all old sannyasis. But all the sannyasis, all the old students, they are all well versed Brahmanishtaihi. So which Brahma is it? That Brahman is Saguna Brahma, Apara Brahma. Students are all the disciples who surround him. They are all, we will be tomorrow doing this dhyana shlokas also, where it is said, Varshishtante vasad rushiganaihi avrutam brahmanishtaihi. Varshishtante vasad brahmanishtaihi rushiganaihi avrutam. He is surrounded. The form is surrounded. If you see the picture of Dakshinam, he is very young, sitting under the banyan tree. And the banyan tree stands for the samsara. And Dakshinamurti ji is seated at the center, showing, it signifies that he is the very root. He is the very root from which this tree of samsara has, as it were, come forth. So, all this is signified. Plus, as I said, he is young, which shows that he is beyond all this, ever fresh. Atma never ages. Consciousness never ages. It remains ever the same. But the students, they are well versed. Brahmanishtaihi. Brahmanishtaihi Rishiganehi. All these rishis are they very well abide in Brahman. But which Brahman? It is Apara Brahman, Saguna Brahman. They are well versed with the knowledge of the truth, but truth with attributes, with form, with qualities. They are the one who want to learn about Nirguna Brahman. They want to know about Param Brahman. So he is surrounded by these students. Plus, as I said, his form as students are all this. Then he has 4 hands. Dakshinamurti ji, as you see in the picture over here, he has 4 hands. In the lower right hand is the Chin Mudra, plus there is Japa Mala also. The mala with which he is constantly remembering the name of the Ishvara, that is also there. Then on the upper right hand is this noose, which we call Pasha. That is also there. Then there is Damaru, the drum is also there on the upper right hand. Then on the lower left hand there is a book. Book stands for knowledge. On the upper left hand is fire, Agni. That is also there. All the 5 elements we will find in his form. Then on the head is Gangaji. Gangaji is there. Then the sun is also there. Moon is also there. Then Dakshinamurti ji is the union of both Purusha and Prakriti. Shiva and Shiva, both of them are there. So in the right ear, he wears the earring of man. Man also wear earring. So on the right ear is the man's earring. Left side is the earring of a woman, which shows that here there Parvati and Shiva, both of them, Purusha and Prakriti, both of them are there in this form. Plus, as I said, he is sitting in the posture of Virasana. Very important other thing is, under his right foot, he has pressed a demon called Apasmar. If you can see in the picture over here, under the right foot, a demon called Apasmar is pressed. Who is this Apasmar? Ego. Ego is the Apasmar who Dakshinamurti ji presses. You cannot, as long as the life is there, as long as the prarabdha is there, ego will remain. But you should never let the ego overpower you. Ego should not be, it should always, you should always overpower it and never be overpowered by ego. Functional ego may be there. So the knowledge, which kind of knowledge is characterized by the awareness that I am always consciousness, plus whatever roles are to be played, that are being played. But I am not so and so. I am not the individual. So always the base tendencies of the ego are always controlled by pressing him. So that is also signified by that. Plus, as I said, in his form, you find all the 5 elements. As I said, the Damaru, which was on the right hand, stands for space, the element space. Gangaji, in his matted locks, stands for water. Then Bhasma stands for earth. Then Vayu, what is the Vayu? That I have written somewhere. Wait a minute. What is Vayu? I have. Yeah, the matted lock stands for Vayu. Plus, there is Nandi. Nandi stands for Dharma, justice, everything. Then the book stands for knowledge. Jata. Jata is the Vayu. Gangaji is water. Bhasma is Prithvi. Then the banyan tree is the samsara vriksha. So this is how the form is there. And sometimes there are 3 forms of Dakshinamurti ji, mainly. One is the one which we are well versed with is Medha Dakshinamurti. So the disciples and those who seek knowledge, they always praise and worship the Medha Dakshinamurti. But there are other 2 also, Yoga Dakshinamurti and Veena Dakshinamurti. Both, these are the 3 forms of Dakshinamurti. The rest of the things remain the same, but this, the features remain the same. But Yoga Dakshinamurti and Veena Dakshinamurti. So this is what Dakshinamurti ji, the form of the Dakshinamurti is. Now we'll proceed with the Dhyana shlokas which you have, in which more or less the same thing which I've already said, but we'll look into that. Dhyana shlokas. Yeah, one more thing which I wanted to say is this, that about Dakshinamurti, it is said, who can come to know Dakshinamurti? There is a beautiful verse for that. Shemushi Dakshina Prokta Sa Yasya Mikshane Mukham, which means that this Dakshinamurti can be known only by an enlightened mind. Dakshina means stands for an enlightened mind. He can be known only by a pure and enlightened mind. So that is Dakshinamurti. So now we'll proceed with the Dhyana shloka. This was in brief about Dakshinamurti's form and the way he incarnated. Now we'll be reading the first verse. You please repeat after me. मौनव्याख्या प्रकटितपरब्रह्मतत्त्वं युवानम् वर्षिष्ठान्ते वसदृशिगणैरावृतं ब्रह्मनिष्ठैः ष्टान्ते वसदृशिगणैरावृतम् आचार्येन्द्रं करकलितचिन्मुद्रमानन्दरूपम् स्वात्मा रामं मुदितवदनं दक्षिणामूर्तिमीडे So it says, these are the Dhyana shlokas for Dakshinamurti ji. Dakshinamurtim ide, the last verse is, I worship this Dakshinamurti. Ide means to worship. I worship this Dakshinamurti. Who is this Dakshinamurti? So in the first line it is said, Mauna Vyakya Prakatita Para Brahma Tattvam. He who by silent exposition has unfolded the truth which is Brahman. By silent exposition. Just imagine, we can't even imagine this, that just remaining quiet, you teach the other person. Now what to make of this? Supposing somebody is quiet, we will sit there for 5-6 seconds, then walk away. We get bored very soon. To sit quietly itself is not easy. To sit quietly for some time is not easy. But sitting quietly doesn't mean it means he conveys the very principle in that silence. This silence is that from which the words are coming forth. And the words are also nothing but made of that silence. See, it is said in Kenopanishad very beautifully, Pratibodha Viditam Matam, which means that in each and every modification of the mind, in each and every thought of the mind, Brahman is to be known. When can you know the truth? Brahman means the truth. When can you know the truth? In each and every thought of the mind. Don't run away from thoughts. Here we are not talking about Chitta Vritti Nirodha, but appreciate the truth even in the midst of the words, even in the words, even in thoughts, even in noise. Appreciate that silence. Appreciate that truth. Then you need not run away. You need not run away from anything. The world which we see outside is first arising in our thoughts. And if in those thoughts itself, if you can appreciate that silence, that truth, then you see it everywhere. So understand what is being said, that when the thought arises, from where does it arise? It arises from silence. From silence, a thought arises, remains in silence, and goes back to silence. Arises from silence, remains there, goes back to silence. Just as the wave in the ocean arises from water, arises from ocean, remains for a while as a wave, and goes back to what? Again water. So wave is nothing but what? Wave is nothing but what? Water. Water alone, in a certain form, water plus a name and form, water plus a given name and form. Some waves may be big, some small, some like tsunami. But what is the content? H2O. Nothing but water in a given form is a wave. Think of that. So, wave doesn't deny the water. Can wave replace or deny the water? It cannot. Why? Because its content, its material cause is nothing but water. Similarly, whatever happens here and outside is nothing but silence. It is nothing but consciousness, asti, bhati, priyam, in the form of thoughts as well as the objects of the world at large. That exposition is being made by silence. But that students were ready to understand. That is why even when we hear about Raman Maharshi ji, you know, that he he just came and sat. But he was so much into that the doubts and suspicion, whatever, the queries of the students would just be nullified, would just go away in his presence. That is the impact. That is the impact of the silence. That is the impact of abiding in the truth. That is the impact of abidance in that truth. That is what is meant by Mauna Vyakhya. Who is unfolding this, remaining silent? He is Yuvanam. He is very young. Young means beyond any age. Young doesn't mean having a younger age. No, it is being beyond age. He never ages. And who is he? We have already done this. Who is he surrounded by? By the old sannyasis. But they are, as I said, they all have the knowledge of the Saguna Brahma. And they want to learn about Nirguna Brahman. And he is Acharyendram. He is the king of Indra of all the Acharyas. Plus holding the mudra, Karakalita Chin Mudram. And he is of the nature of Anandarupam, always pleased, always abiding in the happiness which happens to be the nature of the self. Plus Swatma Ramam. He revels in the very self. There is nothing other than self for him, Atma or in fact, there is no other thing. As Bhagavan says in Bhagavad Gita, Mattav parataran nanyat kinchid asti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam protam sutre maniganaiva. There is nothing beyond me. Mattav parataran nanyat kinchid asti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam protam. Everything is woven in me like that's like the beads, different beads woven in one string. Similarly, the entire creation consisting of names and forms are woven into me. When this is the nature of the self, where is the question of mind going elsewhere? When you abide in this truth, when you don't see anything other than this, Nanyat kinchit vidyate, when there is nothing else, where is the question of mind going anywhere else? Where can the wave go other than water? Similarly, one who knows this will always be Swatma Ramam. He revels in the self. Mudita Vadanam, and is always having a very pleased, what shall we say, countenance, always very pleased, not sorrowful, not laughing, nothing, but very pleased. That shows that he abides. He abides happily, as Bhagavan says, you know, Atmanyevatmana tushtaha sthita prajnastadoch Atmani eva Atmana tushtaha. He is satisfied in himself by himself. This is a wise man, satisfied in himself and by himself. This is conveyed by Mudita Vadanam. To such a Dakshinamurti, I worship him. Then second verse. Vatavitapi samipe bhumi bhage nishannam सकलमुनिजनानां ज्ञानदातारमारात् त्रिभुवनगुरुमीशं दक्षिणामूर्तिदेवम् जननमरणदुःखच्छेददक्षं नमामि। Who do I bow down to? To Dakshinamurti ji, with Vatavitapi Samipe, Bhumi Bhage Nisharnam, who is very well seated under the banyan tree, very well seated over there. As I said, is the very root, is the very substratum of the samsara. Sakala Muni Jananam Jnana Dataramarat. He gives this message. He teaches his students very quickly. Doesn't take much time. He is himself so competent. And the students are also all ready. So, Sakala Muni Jananam Jnana Dataramarat. Very quickly this happens. He is the teacher of the entire three worlds. Tribhuvana Gurumisham Dakshinamurti Devam. He is the to such a Devata who is what? Janana Marana Dukkha Cheda Daksham Namami. Who is skillful, who is competent in eradicating, in removing the dukkha arising from Janana Marana. This is samsara. Janana Marana. Janana means coming and going. Coming and going. As Lord Krishna says, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu, dhruvam janma mrutasya cha. Lord Krishna says that what is life? Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityu. For one who is born, death is definite. For one who is born, dhruvam, jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu. Dhruvam, it is definite. However hard, however much you may try to run away, you may try to prolong, evade, but you have to face it. We always talk of death of other people. This went away, that one went away, that one went. In COVID, so many went away. It could very well be myself. But so this birth and death are definitely there. For one who is born, death is definite. And dhruvam janma mrutasya cha. For one who dies, not gone forever. He is out of our sight, but very much present in some other form. Once you go from here, and if the knowledge is not there, then you are born. You come in some other form. You can't evade it. Because the desires are there, ignorance is there. Ignorance gives rise to desires. Desires give rise to action. And this chain continues. This chain of birth and death, coming and going. And in Swamiji's words, this life of becoming is samsara. Where in samsara you constantly want to become. This is not fine. I want to change. I want to adjust. I want to transform. I want to go. I want to do this or something or the other. We are not content. We are not satisfied with things as they are. Momentarily, yes. Momentarily, yes. Things may be okay for us for some time, but very soon, we get bored and we want things. Very soon we want this. Na jatu kamah kamanam upabhoge na shamyati. Not a single object or a person or a place in this creation can ever satisfy us forever. Not a single thing. And that is why my desires continue. Desires remain here. What is desire? I am not happy. I am not content. Enough of all this. Now let us go. Now some kick. Now some sensation. Something or the other we want. This want continues. Understand? This want makes me revolve in this samsara, in this merry-go-round, from which Swamiji says sorrow go round. It makes you inevitable. It is inevitable. So, one who is competent to bring an end to this. But Swaminiji, what is wrong in being born? Why are you after Janana Marana? Let us be born and then we'll die and then come back again. What is wrong with that? But what is Janma? We should know. The process of coming and everything. If you ponder about all this, not easy, not a joke. It is not a bed of roses. So, Janana Marana Dukkha Cheda Daksham, who is competent, skillful, adept in bringing an end to this cycle of birth and death. And the cycle of birth and death can come to an end only by what? Only by knowing, not by doing. Not by doing, only by knowing that this birth and death are not the phenomena touching the self. Self is never touched by these things called birth and death. There is no janma, no mrityu for death. This was the problem with Arjuna. Whole Gita started from this. He is afraid, lamenting for this janma and mrityu. My people will go away. What will I do without them? I will be the cause. This was his problem. Lord Krishna says, what are you? You are lamenting for no reason. Ashocyan anvashochastvam. You speak about big things. You are philosophizing. But you don't know. There is no content in your words. Ashocyan anvashochastvam. Prajna vadamscha bhasase. Gatasun agatasumscha nanu shochanti panditaha. Who is pandita? Who is panda? What is this panda? Panda means knowledge. What is the knowledge? That self najayate mriyate va kadachit. There is no birth and death. Yes, for the body, but not for the self is never born. Nor does it go away anywhere. When we think that the person is dead, Atma is very much there. Atma is there, self has not gone anywhere. So, who teaches this? This is not something which you can just come to know by sitting under a tree. It has to be taught. Swami, Atma cannot be stumbled upon. Someday something will happen and I'll come to know. You have to learn this. Learn from someone who is qualified, who himself abides in this, plus has the methodology to teach you. So, one who is daksha, skillful in doing this, to that Dakshinamurti, I bow down my head. Then further. Chitram vatataror mule Vruddha shishya gurur yuva Gurostu mauna vyakhyanam Shishyastu chinna samshayaha Chitram vatataror mule Vruddha shishyaha gurur yuva. Under this banyan tree is this teacher who is what? Guru hu yuva. Teacher is young. And students are all old. Old means again they are also Atma only. But since they do not know, because of ignorance, this yatra in samsara is going on since what time? Anadi kalaha. When did we first take birth? Tell me. Who can tell me? When was I first born? Nobody can say. Which AD? You can't say. Otherwise, if you can say, pinpoint, this century I was born. What were you before that? Then suddenly what happened? So, we are anadi mayaya suptaha. Since how long this is going? Beginningless time. That is why jivas are old. That is why all those who are ignorant are old in that sense. Shishyaha are all old, aged, not in time, but because of ignorance, because of this life of coming and going, seeking, desiring, changing, frustrating. All this is going on since beginningless time. That is why all the Shishyas are Vruddhaha. They are all Vruddhaha. But having come to the teacher with the right bent of mind, with full Shraddha, with all the faith, commitment, trust, everything. So, the mind is ready. For knowledge to happen, knowledge can happen in a right mind. A right mind is required. That preparation is definitely required. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Unless the mind is ready. In Kathopanishad, it is said that this Atma is gudaha. It will not reveal itself, but can be known. Sarva bhuteshu gudaha Atma. It is right here, but we do not know. But when can we know about it? Drishyate tvagraya buddhya. When you have a very focused, pure and right mind. Then drishyate tvagraya buddhya sukshmaya sukshmadarshibihi. For people who have that right mind, sukshma, subtle, pure, placid mind, for them, they can see the self, which is right there. Because mind has to become like the self. Then it can know. Like for seeing the amoeba, no other glass will work, only microscope or that kind of glass will work. For seeing the stars and constellations, you require telescope and that kind of glass. The medium has to be of the nature of what you want to see through it. Similarly, Atma is subtle, conscious, formless, loving. So the mind also has to become like that. And when they want to know about this truth, the students also had that kind of mind. That is why in the presence of this teacher, Shishyastu Chinna Samshayaha, all their doubts and queries, they got quelled just by being in the presence. They report, that in presence of certain Mahatmas, all my doubts went away. I came to know everything. They say. So, this is being said. Then one more verse we will do. Nidaye sarva vidyanam Bishaje bhavaroginam Gurave sarvalokanam Dakshinamurtaye namaha. Nidaye sarva vidyanam. He is the nidhi. Nidhi means treasure. He is the nidhi of all the branches of knowledge, mainly Vedanta. Bishaje bhavaroginam. He is the doctor. He is the very good doctor for which disease? Bhavaroga. This bhava means to become, to be born, the desire to become. That is why we have to come. There are so many desires. To fulfill all these desires, Ishvara gives us a body, etc. So, this doctor is such who makes the right diagnosis. First, we have to know what this patient is suffering from. Unless you make the right diagnosis, you cannot give the right medicine. So, the problem has to be very clear. For this teacher, he knows what is the problem. So, Bishaje Bhavaroginam, he is the right doctor for Bhavaroga, for the Bhavaroga. And what is Bhavaroga? Ignorance. Ajnanam is the Bhavaroga. In fact, Atma is right there and still I don't know. I'm looking for something which is right hidden here. If I had to search it outside, maybe I may not find it. But it is right here. It is my core, my very self, my very truth. And still, I am moving from place to place, crying, lamenting, begging, begging and begging. Samsara is nothing but begging. Give me, give me, give me. So he brings he's the right. You don't need all this. You are already what you are seeking. Seeker himself is the sought. This is the medicine which he gives. Gurave sarva lokanam. He is teacher of everyone. Dakshinamurtaye namaha. Last one. So that this dhyana shlokas will be over. I take Om Namah Pranavarthaya Shuddha Jnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. So, see, all this is, in fourth vibhakti, chaturthi. Why? Because salutation is there. Om Namah Pranavarthaya. I salute, salutations to the one who is implied by pranava. Pranava means omkara. Omkara. Omkara is the apt, most befitting name for the truth. Truth is twofold, let us say. Saguna and Nirguna. Saguna is superimposed one, Nirguna is the right one. But by Omkara, both are indicated. We will do this tomorrow. But by Omkara, Omkara stands for both Saguna Brahma plus Nirguna Brahma. Omkara is made of these three syllables. A, U, Ma. This A, U, Ma stands for the entire creation. Waking state, dream state, and the deep sleep state. The entire creation. A, U, Ma. And that amatra on the Omkara which you see, this which you see stands for Nirguna Brahma. It stands for silence. Stands for silence. Silence which is the substratum for the samsara. Akara, Ukara, Makara. So the Omkara stands for, when you pronounce, when you chant Om, from silence it comes, goes back to silence. So when you say Om, both A, U, Ma stands for the creation, and then where it goes in silence, it stands for Nirguna Brahma. So Om Namah Pranavarthaya. I bow down, I offer my salutation to this Dakshinamurti ji, who is the meaning of Omkara, which means he himself is the truth. And what else is he? Shuddha Jnanaika Murta. He is nothing but the picture of purity. Shuddha Jnana. It is pure knowledge. Placid, Nirmal, Prashantaya, all silence. To such a Dakshinamurti ji, my salutations. So this is the Dhyana Shloka. When you want to meditate upon Dakshinamurti ji, you chant this mantras. So these are the Dhyana Shlokas. From tomorrow, having done this, given a brief introduction about the Stotra, from tomorrow we'll proceed verse by verse. It is a relatively long, it consists of 10 mantras and we have only 7 days. So we'll try to, I hope to complete it. I will not leave it half. We'll do it, we'll complete the entire Stotra, but we'll have to do little quickly. Okay, thank you. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanta Shanta Shanti Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shantashantihi. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. So tomorrow we'll have our class at 10:30 to 11:30.